That's too low. Oh, sorry. There you go. All right, you're going to have to deal with that. Welcome. I'm first time DM, and I am working on an encounter with spiders. This is not something that's in the book in any way. For me, the intention here is simply for the party to realize, the party who has been attempting to infiltrate the cult of the dragon, to suss out what their intentions are. Now, again, for anyone who might be a player in this campaign, this is not for you. This is for DMs only. So, unless you want to spoil it, then that's on you. So, I'm doing a spider attack to introduce the fact that the Zhentarim, the criminal network, the black network, is also following the cult of the dragon in their activities. And they're not so keen on... Well, first of all, the Zhentarim didn't like the fact that the cult of the dragon started banditry and created a lot of booty that they were not getting a piece of. That's what they first noticed. And they looked at the amount of gold and they were astounded. And they realized that there were several caravans currently making the lion's share of all of this booty, all these the spoils of all of the activities, and they're transporting them to one location, several locations. They seem to be going all over the place. So Zhentarim wants to see what's going on with the cult. They could always steal the gold later, they believe. So they're not necessarily interested in stealing the gold, but they are interested in finding out what the cult is up to, because the stabilizing events in Faerun limit profits and profitability. So that's what the cult is about. All right. So the players find themselves, and this is in the book. The players find themselves in a caravan, secretly watching the cult of the dragon. To suss out the exact same thing that the Zhentarim is interested in. Again, the gold itself, not the target. It's what are the ends. Now, in the book, Tyranny of Dragon, the campaign module, let's see, I just want to get this as straight as I can. That's pretty much it. And they do some filler activities. And then they move on, and you get introduced to a Zhentarim spy, a halfling named Jamna, and a red wizard who has teamed up with the the Cult of the Dragon. Now, part of this is how do I say this? Jam never really plays a part again in the adventure. And the Red Wizard sort of, I believe, is sort of like a boss fight at the end, maybe, of the first half or the end of the Horde of the Dragon Queen. And, you know, he either dies or doesn't die. It doesn't really matter because you can always replace him with another Red Wizard, you know, because he's not the top guy anyway with the Red Wizard faction. So I'm like, well, what is the point of this whole road up north? And for me, a lot of it has been about giving the players ability to get to know the cult, right? Who are they? What are they about? You know, this type of thing, and so it could establish it as the enemy. But I also want to make them not like evil and they want the end of the world. Like, and again, spoilers for the book. In the book itself, the players learn pretty quickly that the Cult of the Dragon is trying to free Tiamat from the Nine Hells to, I guess, destroy, wreak havoc on the land. And, you know, why would they want to do that? So, you know, it's just sort of nonsensical in some ways. It's like a suicide cult, I guess. It's a suicide cult that wants to take the world with it. Okay. Why? I mean, you know, what is it about the cult that makes them want to do this? And so it got me thinking, what are the true intentions of this group? Now, what cultists know, or what they believe they know, is that Severin, the newly installed leader of the Cult of the Dragon, that Severin has new interpretations of, you know, ancient texts or whatever that are important to the Cult of the Dragon, and he has a different interpretation. And so his interpretation is just, oh yeah, it's not the Dracoliches, it's the chromatic dragons, and we should bring out Tiamat and she will destroy the earth. And you get followers for this? Where do you recruit for that? So it could be a death cult, and I think that, you know, like, we want to destroy the world is impure, or whatever it is. You could come up with that, but I wanted to make my campaign more grounded in reality and politics, because I think the second half of the adventure is very much politics, and so I wanted the politics to feel real. And so Severin in my campaign has launched a basically what amounts to a propaganda campaign, saying that the nobility are a bunch of crooks, and you've been lied to. The Cult of the Dragon has the right of it, and they're preaching that chromatic dragons are not the devils. Connotations intentional, are not the devils that you believe them to be. You've been lied to. Is this what Severin actually believes? Well, yes, he does believe this. And my Severin is not the Severin of the book. But that's for another day. He is actually somebody in the world who gets so sick of the greed of the nobility and the short-sightedness of the kingdoms and the powers that be and the powers of mercantilism and whatnot. There we go. So most of the propaganda isn't focused on, hey, chromatic dragons are going to come destroy you. No, the campaign is your rulers, the current rulers, the Lord's Alliance, whoever, are lying to you and taking advantage of you, and they should be overthrown. They should be stopped. And part of that is that you've been lied to about chromatic dragons. And chromatic dragons are our salvation. They will rule with justice and might and clarity. And so maybe red dragons aren't so bad. So that's sort of the public-facing pitch from the Cult of the Dragon. Now, is that an accurate reflection of what Severin's aims really are, what he wants to accomplish with the cult? Well, that's to be seen. But the Zhentarim take they're more interested in what the hell's going on with this guy. Who is this guy? Why are they stealing all this money? We could always steal it from them later. And does he really want to make chromatic dragons run the world? Is there something else more sinister, like maybe raising Tiamat from the Nine Hells? Or something else. And so the Zhentarim have wanted to figure out, just like the Harpers, what's going on with the cult, and test their mettle. And so that's what this moment is. The players now have infiltrated the caravan, as they do in the book, and I've done some side quests instead of the meaningless ones in the book. I did ones where things happen, attacks happen, and the players' characters are able to save the cultists to enough a degree where the cultists might want to recruit them. And the players are pretending to be open to that, open to being indoctrinated. And so that's where we sort of find ourselves. And again, like I'm saying, in the book, there's a Zhentarim spy who is checking in on the cult's activities as well. And so, using the magical powers of the Zhentarim and the resources of the Zhentarim, the head of the Zhentarim, which in my campaign, even though it might not mesh up with the timelines and whatnot currently being used in Forgotten Realms, is Manchu. I'm probably going to use some Manchun stuff from the heist, the Waterdeep heist campaign, whatever that one was called. Anyway, so Manchun has allowed a troop of magically controlled spiders, giant spiders, to attack the caravan. And let's see how well the cultists can fight. And also, let's see if these heroes that the Harpers have thrown into it via Lagozin are really in my campaign. There's a prophecy here, and the player characters are part of this prophecy. Is the prophecy real? Is it not real? Well, that's all matter of debate. As is, anyway. So what I'm working on here is that encounter. The Jamna has indicated this is the time is right to test the cult. And so a contingent of phase spiders, giant spiders, and what are they called? The spider people. Ettins, is that what they are? Yeah, ettercaps. And so these are sort of magically controlled by, Manchun's minions. And they're all controlled by runes and whatnot that are embedded in all of the different spiders. And if investigated afterwards, the players will be able to discover that indeed this was a Zhentarim attack. And they will either share that with the cult or they won't. They will, share that with the powers that be. The Zhentarim are now taking an interest in all of this, which will make it easier for Leosin to convince the powers that be in Waterdeep and the Lord's Alliance that there is in fact a problem, because they have in the past scoffed at his prophecy. So again, I've added a much deeper reason for the players to be involved. Now, is this prophecy actually happening? I think Leosin was a little bit of a kook. Is the prophecy? Maybe it is, and maybe there was a coincidence. And again, it depends on the players and the player actions, whatever actually happened. Because again, I want to let my players have ownership over this world. So let me just rearrange some of these here. There you go. Great. Okay. So anyway, so the ettercaps and the phase spiders and the giant spiders and the little spiders are that morning. Everyone will be complaining of NPCs, of spider bites over the night, and that one of the caravan wagons that the party is doing the security for, they will complain that they have spider bites from the night before, and this is unacceptable, and you should be there shouldn't be spiders in the wagon. This is part of their security job, because that's sort of who these NPCs are. And so the day will pretty much go completely on other issues. We have a lot of RP stuff to do. There's a lot of the dealing with the caravan, the wagons themselves, because again, I've created backstories and interweaving plots with the wagons that the party are affiliated with. There were 3 wagons that they partied up with. And those, wagon people who randomly picked up the party are not so random. You might. Jem is one of them. She's running a wagon. She's posing as a antiques dealer. There was an old guy that was sort of like a trader of exotic birds and reptiles from exotic places. And he was actually the only one that was actually who he said he was. But he got killed in a troll and goblin attack. Again, something of my own creation that was made again to allow the party to save some Cult of the Dragon people, which would make some, not all, of the cultists thinking of the players as maybe people that they should recruit. And there were other subsequent excursions and evenings where the players went on a little quest to prove that they are recruitable and open to the ideas of the cult. And so again, that'll allow them, the players, to learn more about the cult, more about their plans, more about Severin, more about, hey, maybe there's some gray area because they've already witnessed some really terrible things being done by the powers that be. The rich elite in Waterdeep are engaged in slavery and the creation of flesh golems to protect their illicit activities that are along with their more legitimate activities. Because some of these Waterdeep, and the power of my favorite is all centered around Waterdeep as the most powerful city with the richest nobility. And some of those nobility are nobles, but the families are running short on money after all of the years of sloth. And, sometimes crime does pay, right? So there's all sorts of things that are happening in Waterdeep that by the leadership, the massed leaders of Waterdeep and whatever. And we're going to have the black staff. Like, well, you allow the slavery to go on in Waterdeep, in not Undermountain, but in the port part, whatever they call it, the pirate port underneath Waterdeep. And yes, the good guys, are good guys, but like again, I'm going to make my black staff is going to be not only in charge of, he is the in charge of the mass lords, but he's the guy that pulls the strings in Waterdeep politics as well as in the Harpers. And he makes choices. He's like, well, yes, this is wrong. These things are wrong and terrible, but we have to maintain order and alliances with some people we detest for the greater good, and blah 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 blah. And again, that'll be for the players to make a judgment on which side has the right of it. Anyway, so this particular thing, so the day goes along, and it comes evening, they make camp, and there will be some flashing off in the distance. And the flashing is these enhanced phase spiders are not only able to phase in and out of the whatever alternate realm or whatever it is that the lore says, they're able not only to do themselves in and out, but they're also able to bring spider webs in and out. So basically, they create spider webs in the alternate ethereal realm, I think it is. And then when they phase them into the material plane, all of those webs phase in too, and those webs immediately ensnare the entire caravan. And then the spiders attack. Of course, we know that the spider webs were not made by the phase spiders because they don't make webs, but of course the giant spiders do. And again, all of these spiders, from the tiny ones to the huge ones, and there will be a huge boss one, they all have blue crystals embedded in their abdomens. And that is how they are being magically controlled by the Zhentarim. So basically, they tell their spider wrangler to go out and wreak havoc on this party. And if there'll be some with the I keep wanting to say Ettercaps, the Ettins, right? No, Ettercap. The Ettercaps are known for kidnapping and torturing and whatnot. Well, they will be kidnapping some of the cultists and interrogating them to find out more, right? So again, and so they will be in where the camping spot will be for the evening. Will be, and this thing is moving all around because I have bumps and whatnot in the service here. So it's flat foam board. It's just moving around because I have crap on I got some of the glue on here, so it's a regular surface. Anyway, so there'll be phase spiders, giant spiders, little tiny spiders, swarms of spiders, Ettercaps. Is that what we said? Ettercap? Ettercap. And there'll be I have a giant phase spider. Where is he? He is here. So let's remove this guy off here. This is my giant phase spider. I got this at the dollar store or Dollar General or whatever. It was on $1.50, like big web, big black web, furry. And this was like in the middle, sort of like a Spider-Man thing. And so what I did was I sort of filled him up with, I put some foil inside of him. He was hollow. And then I built it up with some foil. And then I put some hot glue over it to give it a shape and a smoothness. And then I could sort of see how you could see the foil underneath. I'm going to sort of do a little bit of a white spray, not fully opaque, mostly like on the legs, and then do some blue highlights. And then I'm going to implant in the back of the spider this gem. And so this gem is the connecting stone basically to the whole attack. So once the other stones, there's going to be 4 other stones. When they are then taken out, with a certain, HP, then you could then attack him. And then once you attack him and kill him, take the stone, then all of the spiders will completely disappear and be in the alternate plane or whatever. So I'm going for the evening. I am going to set up these trees amongst other smaller trees and whatnot, but these trees are going to be on the sides of the road, and they're going to be like sequoia type trees, right? And it just sort of with a metaphorical sort of like, oops, oh, pain on me. Chopping out. It's like the trees are only this high for the purposes of the encounter, but to look sort of like, yes, they are taller with big trees and branches, whatnot, and then give them the impression of a much larger, fuller bushed, leaved tree. And I will get the Halloween cobwebs and stretch it from these trees. So the trees will be out there on the table. I made wagons a while back, so the wagons are there represented. The trees will be there. Of course, the party will expect some sort of combat amongst the trees because, like, I have like terrain pieces, right? Like that'll be a dead giveaway. But they might guess that it's spiders, right? Because there have been the spiders throughout the day. But all of a sudden, I will say, okay, well, look away, go out from the room for a minute, and then come back, and they will see that the face spiders, or however I'm going to do it, I'm probably not going to do it like that, but I will string up the fake cobweb stuff. I have all the little fake spiders, the little Halloween fake spiders all over the place. And then they're going to have a spider encounter. They'll have to take out, they could keep fighting them. The players are going to be level 5 for this. So it's going to be easy to take out spiders. But it's going to be sort of a never-ending flow of them until they take out the 4 gems, and then they could take out the main spider. And once the main spider is dead, they all disappear. So there you go. So I'm creating sequoia trees. These are basically paper towel rolls. I mean, I don't think they are actually paper towel rolls. Where did I get it? It was a bigger roll of something. It might be wrapping paper or something. And I cut it into a few spots, and then I had another roll of something that I had gotten that was tougher, and those were the thinner ones. So these are all a little more sturdy than your typical paper towel rolls, but they're not. They're somewhat flimsy. I have pieces of wood that I had left over. Well, that's not a good example. This is still hot. I have these pieces stuck in here to the paper towel rolls, hot glued all that, covered it in foil, and now I'm hot gluing it to the base, obviously, and now I'm Mod Podging it. So the bases need to be sort of wide because, again, if you're putting all of this webbing on it and you're going to be putting these little spiders on it, and you might have miniatures jumping up in there, or being pulled into the web, it needs to sort of support some weight. So I'm trying to make these as wide bottomed as possible. I'm also going to have some roots here, there, and I'm going to make those with tin foil, and then I'll hot glue it again, and then I'm going to put what do you call it? The sort of cast stuff. It's sort of like a plaster. it's like a plaster of Paris sort of thing, and it's sort of heavy, and so that'll give it more weight, and therefore I think that'll make play stable at the table where we're not knocking things over too bad. Because again, there's 6 of these that I'm making. One stray player, hand gesture could knock everything over, and if that happens, that happens. But I want to make them sort of sturdy enough for play where everything doesn't get knocked over every 2 seconds. And I think that some wide bases. This particular one probably should be a little bit wider, but you do what you can. I think the first one I did was a better example of a appropriate size. So this is now only hot glued here, so I'm going to be very careful when I'm manipulating this because this could pop off very easily. I'm going to make the roots pretty high, and then there's going to be that plaster of Paris sort of thing, and that's really what's going to hold the tree trunk or the paper towel roll in place. So it's a little bit loosey-goosey right now, so I want to be extra delicate. I don't like to make things that are going to break. I want them to stand the test of time. I don't know. I might sell these. I made another batch of trees recently to be my sort of, starting forest. And I'm definitely going to augment these with those, or just sort of, those I'm not going to sell because I think it was at Michael's, they were discontinuing one brand of little train miniature trees, and there was a good price on them, like $1 a tree. And so it just was an easy way for me to get a bunch of trees and make a quickie forest. That wouldn't be something I would sell just because I don't have access to those trees anymore. But this is all homegrown stuff. Everything here. I'm piecing together a couple of things I saw on YouTube. I added the because I wanted to do the sequoia type, and people have definitely done that. I should probably link to those things, but I don't have that info readily available. I wanted to put the trees on, or the branches on, at least the starting of the branches, and I was sort of looking at sequoias. They sort of start like that too, right? The long base and then a few branches, and then they get to be huge. So I bought a $5 Dollar General Christmas plants, some sort of maybe like a cranberry or I don't know. I had a couple red berries on it, and it's sort of a pine tree sort of a thing. And so I'm going to rip off for $5. It's a lot. It was a lot of bush, big bushes. And so I'm going to use those to augment that for some greenery, and obviously paint the branches and the bark, make some ground, and this will look like log, like the inside of a tree, right? Sort of where the cutoff is from reality of the board versus because I can't make a full sequoia tree because even if it was practical, it wouldn't be good at the table because you're already stringing webs between everything, which will limit our movement as far as our minis and our wagons underneath the stuff. But again, I think that's part of where I like to make terrain that has a purpose, that affects gameplay, that's not just pretty, that you're playing in a way that you couldn't without it. And that sort of physicality of the webs and maneuvering through them with your minis and whatnot when you want to move them is part of the experience. So hopefully, unless it's a complete dud, or whatever, we'll see what happens. And I guess that's sort of what this channel is about, right? Is me not being the expert at D&D and telling you how you should play, or giving you the tips and tricks on how to make your session better. I'm just telling you about how I'm trying to make my session and see if it pays off, because the wagons I made are on my Etsy store right now, and you could buy them, or, well, not the ones that are there. I custom make every wagon to order, but I spent a lot of time on the wagons because I wanted to have several encounters with them, and I wanted the players to have sort of, it's something tangible to run around. And the first encounter we had with them was with a troll and goblin attack. It was actually going to be just a troll attack, but I wanted to put some fodder in there. And they're like, oh, we're in the troll claws, and we expected a troll to attack us, but we have goblins. I'm like, yeah. And then, a couple minutes later, the trolls come out. I had 3 trolls against a party of, I think it ended up being 5 players, not 6. We downscaled. Well, we lost a couple players. That's what we did. And I think we're staying at 5 for right now. We were 6. Combat goes a lot faster with 5. That's the 6th person, although I like having 6 people at the table as players. It's a lot. But we may go back to 6. You never know. Anyway, so I'm doing these trees. The trees will be there. They will either guess of spiders or not, but they, the phase spiders sort of phasing in and out, and then phasing in the shock troops, who are not, even regular giant spiders and all this are being phased in from the Zhentarim, unit in the far realm, or the outer realm, or whatever hell realm it is. I think it's far realm. I don't know. I also am I'm sort of seeding a second major plot. This one coming from the Underdark. And I think I don't know if it's ever going to fully present itself in this campaign, but the Cult of the Dragon's activities might not be the most pressing problem facing Favorite. And so that would be a more multiversian sort of thing. Unless we decide to go there in this campaign and say, the Culture of the Dragon is not that interesting. So we'll see. Again, I like to keep it open. I like to have a coherent world, like I like things from my end to make coherent sense. There are things in the world that are happening, and the players are, responding to that. But I also want to keep that world fluid enough to change to meet my players' preferences. Like maybe they want to do something different. Maybe, so because it's a railroady campaign. So I give the players options to go off the beaten path periodically. And they could either choose to do that or do something else. And we had a whole side plot sub thing about what are we going to do with the dragon eggs. It was completely of my creation, and we ended up on the first level of Mount Celestia, putting the eggs in a whatever ocean sea to cleanse them, transforming them after being dunked, going through trials in order to do so. They became silver dragon eggs, and 3 more silver dragons in the world of Faerun, being raised by the mentor figure of one of our former players. So the outer whatever. Sorry, I'm forgetting all the lore. The outer planes we've already visited. I think when we were level 3 or 4. And that was actually, there was a little combat there in the trials, but it was mostly RP. And then after that, we did a quick sort of more fighty thing on a side mission. Again, that was my creation because we'd been doing so much RP that I wanted to give the players some opportunity to use their fighting skills and kill stuff. And so that's when we got the gnolls. I did a whole sort of not Goldilocks, but Little Red Riding Hood with a werewolf and an air elemental, some gnolls. So I combined a couple things. And in that, they got to do some fighting. They got to be sort of this whimsical fairy tale like thing that was, obviously telegraphed. And oh, we're doing Little Red Riding Hood. But they also got to experience firsthand that the cult of the dragons propaganda was filtering into the world, and certain people were starting to believe it. And they're going to find out as it goes along that the propaganda is magical in nature, and so these people are basically being enthralled, enchanted, whatever is the proper thing to call it for D&D, through these posters. So the popularity of the cult, they started with an idea of, anti-establishment, anti-whatever, and there's some anti-immigrant stuff because there's too many immigrants coming north from and southern territories. And but yeah, the folks are being enthralled, and then they're becoming cult members, and there's a lot of sinister magic being used to create such mass scale charming, and that's being powered by blood magic and things of that nature that they will uncover. So the cult is definitely up to no good, not good guys. As bad as the establishment is, the cult is a menace. But of course, there's something lurking in the Underdark that is also watching what's going on and biding its time for when to strike. I'm just streaming here, okay? Yep. Anyway, so the spiders are going to be climbing on the webs that are going to be stuck on these trees. And these trees cost me, because I already had the foam board, all the paper rolls I had from other things. The wood was left over from some other art project. Some tin foil. Put a little either spackle or wood glue or wood spackle, fake wood. It's already cracking a little bit. I was going to use foam to seat it, but I didn't want to cut a bunch of circles because that sounds annoying. So I stuffed it full of paper. I probably should have glued it again just to give it a little bit more sturdiness to it. And then put the wood spackle on top. And then that'll be painted to look like wood. And this obviously will be painted to look like bark. We'll have the plaster on the bottom here, creating some weight. Some tree branches with fake pine. And it'll be done. And I have, I think, 2 weeks to get this completely done. And it's coming along pretty good. And yeah, I'll probably sell these because it's good to have big trees that you could string spider webs on and other things, I guess. You could probably put, I saw the other guy on YouTube did he had what do you call them? Bridges from one to the next. So that was cool. And he had magnets and stuff holding it all together. It was pretty cool, but not what I'm doing here. I just need something to hold my webs. And I want it to be household items that will come together in a really sort of sturdy way. I think I could turn that off. So I'm very actually happy with them so far. I think they look good. I was a little loosey-goosey on the height. I wanted to all be basically the same height. There's a couple that are too short. But more or less the same. And there are 6 of them total. And I also, the wood here goes all the way through to the other side, and then it's glued. So it sort of gives it a bit of a knot appearance, but it also makes these stronger. Like these aren't going to fall out because they're supported on each side. And again, it needs to be able to survive at the table. Now, these aren't toys, right? Like if you give these to a little kid and say, go play with your trees and stuff, it'll break. But if it's sort of a normal play at the table with, not necessarily adults, but, people that are, use them delicately and with some care, they'll be fine. Of course, I tell my players, don't worry if something gets broken. These things are meant to be played with, and sometimes whatever happens, and that's fine. That's part of bringing these things to the table. You want to make them sturdy enough for table play. They're not toys, but they are not something for a shelf, right? They're something for a game table. And I think that's very important. Yes, you could make something that's made out of, you could have just put the cardboard logs up and done a sturdy base and, but, these got a little bit more complicated than I wanted them to be. But my first priority was I wanted to make it the accessible materials. I didn't want to spend a lot on the materials. I didn't think I needed to accomplish this task. But I want to make something that's quality. And I think this is a great mix. I'm very happy with this. Especially when I get the plaster stuff on there. It's the stuff that the Sculptamold. That's what it's called. The Sculptamold. That's what the Black Magic craft guy uses. Got that from him, and it has this sort of paper mache sort of plaster consistency. You can't get a lot of detail into it, but it's good for creating stuff and giving weight. And it'll give more toughness to the trees because I don't want my trees to pop off the stand here. And I think the hot glue holds it, but it needs more strength. Because again, if it pops off, you know, you don't want it to pop off. How embarrassing would that be? Your trees pop off their stand in the middle of a game. In battle. Oh, my tree broke. So yeah, these branches are not going anywhere. The rolls are surrounded by a bunch of tinfoil. So stiffened that way. Now it's being Mod Podged. And then we're going to do the base with the sculpt mold. They're sort of like little tanks, honestly, as far as trees go. And again, this is there's no detail to the bottom here yet. Probably should have put the roots on first and then done this step, but I just wanted to get it, especially because this is the first time I'm doing this. This is I don't sell these. These are my prototypes that I do here. Or I should say, I do some of the things that I sell here, but when I make it for the first time, I don't sell what I make for the first time because I learn how to do it the first time. And if it's successful, and that doesn't mean you don't learn as you go. But if you're successful, then sure. And if other people want them, happy to do it. And it gets, you learn at this stage so you don't have to learn later. And you still, I'm sure, get better and better with repetition once you get it down. But so far, this one has been going pretty good. A little forest. Okay. But they're very wet. Move some of them down. There you go. See, so this is not fully dried, but there is a little crack because it's not fully based. So that would be something that I would do a little differently. I think I probably would put something a little bit more substantial in there than what I put in there for these, just to prevent that. Because again, I want to make them tough enough for the table and play, but I also want them to, these are pieces of art. I view them as pieces of art. This is my art that has a function. And I used to actually work at an art gallery, and one time we were unpacking the art for an upcoming show, and I think we were putting them on the wall. They're actually cool little paintings, but one of the it's sort of like sort of half sculpture, half painting, and one of the pieces of art popped off the frame. There was no like glass; it was just sort of framed. There was a rustic nature to it, and we noticed that what was holding that piece onto the frame was blue painter's tape. And that taught me, when you're making art, you got to make it. You can't make it with blue painter's tape. And so, I think maybe that I either need to use more stuff or give it a firmer base. So sometimes you're like, yeah, that was this. Sometimes you can't cut corners. Some things like the roll. Like I wouldn't use paper towel roll for this. I would use like whatever, like a poster tube, something of that nature, like a mailing tube, especially for something I would sell to folks, and of course I pretty much used all this wood, so I would have to reconstitute the raw materials, and I would properly source them because I want my pieces to not only handle the table, but also the test of time, and that's why I give it a good Mod Podging here. The black paint I have is a good quality paint and gives a nice rich deepness to it because I'll use some dry brushing to bring out highlights in the wood as we paint it. And we'll have little things on the base as well, some flocking on the dirt, some bushes, and so forth. Probably pretty neutral. But, because again, you think, the ground underneath a huge tree like this is sort of bare, right? Because plants need light, and you don't get a lot of light underneath a sequoia tree. But I'll probably do a little research on that too, just to see how, I'll make it verdant, but not overly so. And sometimes I like to throw in some surprises too, little ritual sites, or skeleton, or something of that nature here and there, that to give it some like, oh, someone else has been here before, and maybe you'll find a magic item, maybe you'll find a note, maybe you'll find a clue. I like to give my players added information, added gameplay with stuff like this. Because again, I just don't want it to be pretty, and I don't want it to be so people just say, oh, wow, that's really cool that you made that. I wanted to give them a gameplay experience that that would have been different otherwise. I want to be additive, not just immersive, if that makes sense. So yeah, because I was going to do this completely as theater of the mind, but I kept changing in my own mind where the spider webs were. Like at first, I wanted just to cut off part of the caravan from the rest of the caravan, and I had sort of already done that. And I'm like, well, now I'm doing it twice, and that sort of feels cheap. So I'm like, okay, it can't, the spider web appearing can't just cut off the caravan and carry. And I'm like, well, maybe it'll just sort of happen and they can't get by the web and they're fighting it on the other side, but that's a different battle because we're stuck over here. And that sounded fine. And then I'm like, but then it just sort of like, it just was feeling a little forced and a little fake. And again, that takes away from the immersion. So I sort of came up with the idea, no, this will affect the entire caravan when they are camped out at night. So I think hopefully the players will be basically getting ready for a long rest when the flashing starts happening in the woods. Of course, that flashing will be the phase spiders bringing in spiders and whatnot, and then they start their, gradual assault from just, just a lot of spiders, little tiny spiders, to then swarms of spiders, like, oh my God, like a bit of a Indiana Jones sort of insect attack. And then the giant spiders will start appearing. And then they will have a big flash. And then everybody will be ensconced in phased in webs. And so the way I'm using the phase spider, again, I'm adding in the Zhentarim magic and the control rooms and all of this. So these are not. So I'm basically using regular phase spiders, but who cannot make webs, according to the 2024-2025 Monster Manual, which I believe is inconsistent from earlier versions. But they rely on other things to make webs, like giant spiders and the ettercap. But yeah, so they'll phase in, and then there'll be this massive spider, this guy, which is way more than, ettercaps are large creatures, right? This is, much larger than what those will appear to be. So knock out the runes, the 4 runes, and then that will allow you to knock out the main spider. And once the main spider is gone, they all disappear. It's like the... And there you go. And they will then examine the runes. They will find out it was Zhentarim. They will know now that if somebody has infiltrated the caravan, there will be more suspicions. And there's already been a murder. And of course, the Jamna did the murder. She got a little greedy and she wanted some, which is in the book, I think, basically, where she does a murder and some of the cultists think it was the party. And I definitely would use elements of that, which is pretty loosey-goosey in the book, but I think was solid. And of course, Jamna, hopefully in my campaign, my version of this campaign, will play more significant role in, is the Zhentarim on our side or are they not? And even if they are on your side, are we okay with working with them? Right? Because it's the Black Network, right? We're working with the bad guys here. But if the rumors, well, again, in my version, I haven't even mentioned Tiamat. Of course, one of my players said, "Well, what about Tiamat?" Like totally meta knowledge. I think they're trying to release Tiamat because you said there was Tiamat in one mural. Like, oh, wow, that is amazing deductive reasoning from one mention of Tiamat in a campaign surrounding Cult of the Dragon people. Which wasn't really like a secret in the actual book campaign, but I'm making that more like, and again, I might change it. I'm not sure that Severin really wants to release Tiamat. I don't know if that's his actual goal. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But if everyone is expecting it, then maybe this is all a ruse and there's some other plot afoot. And I have a lot of potential ways we might go. Because if people assume one thing, that's sort of the great thing about D&D, right? It's like a movie or, you're making, right? Oh, I missed the whole branch here. You could change it because it's unfolding. And I'll see what's best for the campaign, for what's most fun. But I will be... And again, I have this other multiversal thing that's going on that's sort of... I could use that to help me in my... If I want to pivot in the goals of the Cult of the Dragon. Yeah. All right, so these guys... I mean, I definitely... whenever you do this, especially when you have lights bearing down on you, you're going to miss some spots, right, that you can't see. The reflections and whatnot. Oops. So let's look for some missed spots. And I find making this stuff very peaceful, to be honest with you. I think that's why I'm streaming tonight. It's peaceful. Peaceful to make these trees, and it's interesting when you do these sort of random techniques like, making bark with foil, which is, somewhat common use. Each one will start to have its own sort of personality, right? Let's see. There you go. Oh, I know you can't see what I'm doing here. Sorry. I got too many trees here. But I'm just hitting spots that are missed. And I don't even think you could see them on camera, even if I had it in frame. These are just sort of the... And it's hard to... Again, oops. Now I'm getting my fingers in it. Where's my rag? There it is. Oh. Try not to get paint on the fingers, but what are you going to do? There you go. And you do want to be generous with your Mod Podge, because again, I think that's pretty critical to longevity. Is make sure you got your nice base so the core components are protected from the elements. Yeah, see. Right here, see? You actually can see it right there. So see, it's all about looking at things from different angles. There's some there. And again, the better the Mod Podging, the better the paint is going to go on and stay on. And here the texture is not only the foil, the crinkled foil, but I also put some ridges with a hot glue. So the hot glue is not only just for attaching pieces, it's part of the sculpture, really. Yeah. Again, it gives it a more natural. The texture of the foil plus the added texture of some streaks up and down of the hot glue. Works out real nice. They're sort of two very different mediums, and then you put them together, cover them over, and it just sort of gives us this random natural look to it. It's really, it seems like as I'm doing this on the second go around, you really want to get it nice. Get it as thick as you can. So this one I think I just did, so I'm gonna put this one to dry. Oops, I'm losing things. Let's see, can I pick this one? I keep telling myself I should put, like plastic gloves on or something, keep the paint off my fingers, but there's something tactile to this work that I enjoy. So you're just gonna scrub your hands when you're done. But yeah, I like the mixing. You want to keep the hot glue streaks up and down thin. You don't want it to look gloopy. But again, it then becomes like, well, how do you paint it, right? And then it gives was this a happy little tree? Was this a sad little tree? Are we in an evil forest? This is not really, I'm not going for evil forest here. I'm just going for forest and spider. I'm trying sort of to build up my collection of what I make and provide for other people. Provide the basics of what people are going to do and use, something that you can come back to, something that will be useful in this campaign, but when you do another campaign, in a different setting, you still might have need for a giant tree. Again, this will get another coating of, this will receive a paint job, right? And this is just the recesses that you'll see of this black, if at all, really. Depends on how the paint job goes. But yeah, I don't want these to be inherently evil. There's nothing evil about these trees. These are just big ones. Big, impressive trees that you wouldn't normally see in a forest unless you happen to be in Sequoia. Similar to what they had in the Empire Strikes Back on the forest moon of Endor. And yes, it is a forest moon of Endor, the planet. Endor is not the moon, in my opinion. So, I'm just peeking here and there, trying to look at different angles and see any of that foil peeking out from the crevices. You might have to give it one more go around before you get it all. Because again, a lot of the light shimmers off the wet paint. So sometimes you miss some. And you have to wait for it to dry. But we'll get it. But again, the Mod Podge not only makes it so you could paint on the foil and the glue, it also strengthens. And again, I learned that from the black magic craft guy, right? Like about the strengthening and having that to be a part of the thought process of wanting it to be quality. Things are falling. And they're wet. Alright, let's see. How do we do? This one. Oops. There you go. Yes, you could see that there, right? Sometimes you didn't like miss a spot, but sometimes it's like a little thin because it's there you go. I'm pretty much done here. I think I'll probably want to wait for everything to be dry really before. And again, I don't want to put too much on the base because that'll be covered anyway. But again, protecting, covering, basing, these are all things that are good. And so on something like this, I don't think you could really do too much of. And because again, making it strong is a core desire here. Make it nice and strong. Not a toy to be played with, by children. Gaming tables, accessories that could also be considered toys. But, they'd have a purpose. Put that there. There we go. And you do, I just, I want to stop at this point, but I keep seeing little bits. Yeah. Well, less though. Pretty good. Pretty good at this point. Pretty good. Doesn't need to be perfect at this point. All right. Well, there you go. So this will be continuing. I mean, we barely got into the spider part, but basically the spider thing is little fake spiders that you get at a Halloween store with that fake webbing that they do in these trees. And then I have my my caravan that will go underneath it with our minis and play it on a Chessex board, the big gigantic mat, and I think I was thinking 8 trees, but I think 6 is fine. 8 because, spider, 8 trees, blah, blah, blah. But I think 6 will suffice, sort of 3 and 3, right? That'll support a web over everything, and there you go. All right. So, good night, and please like, subscribe, share, a comment. A comment would be nice